Good evening and welcome to the first of two general election debates hosted by the DC Office of Campaign Finance. I'm Denise Barnes, publisher and owner of the Washington Informer, and I will serve as the moderator for tonight's debate.
Thank you for your support, and with that, let's meet our candidates.
Thank you, Director Montgomery. The candidates for tonight's debate are Muriel Bowser, who served as mayor of the District of Columbia since 2014, Stacia Hall, a small business owner in Ward 3, Rodney Red Grant, who is a DC-born comedian and executive turned politician, and Dennis Sobin, current director of Safe Streets Arts Foundation.
Thank you, Denise, and thank you for hosting tonight. I want to thank the Office of Campaign Finance as well for hosting and for doing an exemplary job running the fair elections campaign. My name is Muriel Bowser. I'm the Democratic nominee for mayor. I was proud to win a very competitive primary just this past June, and I am proud to be your mayor, and I have served as your mayor since 2015. Since 2015, we have been working on the big issues that affect DC and DC residents. Top of people's minds, we know, are public safety, how we're going to bring back our downtown, how we're going to bring back our kids from the impacts and effects from COVID, and how we will continue to provide excellent government services. I know that what this election is about, and it is about who do you trust to lead the city in the district's comeback. And for the last 8 years, I have delivered for DC residents. I keep my promises. I do the things that I say that I'm going to do. And I go out across all 8 wards and work with individuals, community groups on the things that matter to us. So I'm running for election again to lead the best city in the world and to build on the progress that we have made in putting Washington, D.C. at the forefront of many conversations, including the delivery of affordable housing. One of the things that I'm proudest of in our last 8 years is keeping a commitment to invest more in affordable housing than has ever been done in the history of the District of Columbia, to focus on and reduce family homelessness, and to make sure that we are putting more DC residents on the pathway to the middle class. Certainly, there is more work for us to do, and I'm looking forward to working with DC residents to get it done.
Yes, good day. I am Dennis Sobin, and I am running for mayor on the Libertarian ticket. If you're not familiar with the Libertarian Party, we are the ones who spearhead a lot of things that you take for granted now. Going back some decades ago, not too many decades, we were out there on behalf of the gay community trying to get the police from arresting and imprisoning gays. And we succeeded with the help of a lot of other people in DC. When it came to marijuana decriminalization, we were spearheading that. Libertarian Party is the Freedom Party, and we believe that the current public safety issue and concern has to do tremendously with the war on drugs, which we are trying to end, at least make less racist. Of course, if you go to the DC jail, you'll find 99% of the people there are black. Even the murder rate in DC is overwhelmingly black, largely because of the drug war. The police enforce it in the black community, but not in the white community. Of course, if you try to bust drugs in the white community, the wealthy areas of Washington, the police will end up probably out of their jobs, and certainly won't get advancement. So these are very discriminatory things. The war on drugs is the number one safety issue. The other day I was at a campaign rally, or really a debate with other candidates, and I raised my hand to say, how many people in the audience use recreational drugs? There were several hundred people there. Nobody raised their hand. Maybe one person half raised it. And I said, oh, I'm surprised. I raised my hand. I was the only person. And I said, I'm surprised because there are so many recreational drugs. You have wine, beer. Yes, The reason I ran for mayor, and I've been very active politically over several decades, is because there are certain issues not being raised in the campaign. As I was saying before, at this meeting I was at where I asked people to raise their hand if they use recreational drugs, and no one did. I said, well, I'm glad you didn't raise your hand because it's not my business. It's nobody's business. And it's not the government's business either. How people enjoy their private time, how they interact with other consenting adults is their business and their business alone. And we have many police in the district that are devoting their lives to trying to entrap people who are nonconformists rather than focusing on real crime. And this is the major reason why I'm running for mayor. Frankly, I think the mayor, the existing mayor, has done a great job. She's experienced, and I know she's probably very likely to win the election this time. The statistics are with her. But I think she has to reconsider, whoever's going to be mayor, the problem of law enforcement and how to use police in uniform, engaged in helping people protect themselves and not trying to entrap people and send them to jail, which are overcrowded anyway now. And as I say, predominantly black. It's racist.
I ran for Mayor Denise in 2015 because I knew that our city needed a good and ethical government. And they needed a leader who was going to be bold and focus on the things that would help more Washingtonians participate in the progress and the growing progress that we experience in this city. Washington, D.C. is among the best run cities anywhere in America. Our financials, even with the hard hit that we have taken from COVID, are strong, which is going to lead us to our comeback. Our schools, the types of investment that we put in our schools, our teachers, and our buildings and our programs will position us better than any place in America to bring our kids back from the learning losses that were suffered during COVID. So some of the things that my friends here have mentioned that are affecting major cities across America, like rising crime and children having lost ground during COVID, is part of the problem of experiencing a 2.5-year response to a pandemic. But DC residents know that they have the right person in the seat. Not only did they come out during the primary to say so, they say so across all 8 wards. They want a decision maker that is experienced. They want someone who can moderate between a lot of different ideas, but at the end of the day, make the decisions that help the most people the fastest. And that's what I've been doing for my career in DC government.
Thank you, Mayor Bowser. So, Mr. Sobin, we'll come to you next because we want to know if you become mayor of the District of Columbia, what new ideas would you introduce to fight crime and address violence in the District of Columbia?
Well, that is my number one concern, as I have mentioned. What I would do is all the police that we're now using out of uniform, I would put in uniform, get them into the community, and I would instruct them no more out of uniform police work, no more entrapment of citizens. And I believe if we create this situation, and we will gain more respect for our police officers, they will be considered to be friends of the community rather than, in many communities, enemies. Mayor Barra used to call the police the army of occupation. And in some ways, that's true, and it's unfortunate. We should have the police here to represent and help all of us, not try to put us all in jail. The current mayor can easily change the situation, not by legislation, although that would be helpful, but by directing the police, just calling up the chief of police, say, look, get these guys back in uniform, these gals back in uniform, no more entrapment of citizens. And I think that would go a long way to public safety improvement here in the District of Columbia.
Well, Denise, I think that we're very focused on driving down all manners of crime, from adults and juveniles, and we have to be very concerned. And I agree with what was said about the young people who are engaging in carjackings and robberies that are really terrifying the neighborhoods that they live in and terrorizing neighborhoods across the city. Our plan is a comprehensive plan, but it does include the police. And so, what you will get from me is the ability to go to the council, get the resources we need, put the right people in place in from policing to prevention, including the violence interrupters, to public health professionals, and to Mr. Sobin's point, the mental and behavioral health professionals that we need to focus on substance misuse in our communities that don't rise to the criminal level. So that is our comprehensive plan, and we are slowly seeing programs work, including our violence interruption efforts that will drive down gun use. And I can talk about that a lot, but we'll also hold people accountable who are committing crimes in our city.
One of the issues that has impacted the district and continues is its relationship with the federal government, as well as now other state governments. Over the past few months, we've had thousands of migrants from Texas and Arizona that have come to the District of Columbia, some that are staying here and some that are going to other places. We don't know when this is going to end. In the meantime, if you were elected mayor, and I'll start again with you, Mr. Sobin, what direction would you give the Office of Migrant Services and other agencies to plan for these new residents?
Within the budgets that we have, I would direct them to just be as considerate and as helpful as possible, and certainly help them find gainful employment, even if it's on a volunteer basis, something to give back to the community for the help that we would be giving them. I don't have a lot more to say about that because we have professionals in that capacity who can do a better job than I can as far as making the day-to-day decisions, but I would be as supportive as possible.
Mayor Bowser?
Well, as I have done, Denise, I am dealing with a crisis that's not of our making and making sure that we are living up to our values while at the same time making sure that our programs and services that we've worked so hard to invest in for DC residents can withstand this crisis. So I put in place a public emergency. I have an emergency piece of legislation in front of the council now that will allow us to provide create a new infrastructure, a new framework to help people who are here temporarily get the services that they need to reset their lives in the United States.
Mayor Bowser, you mentioned early on that the issue of learning losses, there's also the issue of supporting teachers. What measures do you feel need to be put in place to support children that have fallen behind? And secondly, what can you tell teachers they can expect from your administration to support them going forward?
Well, I'm very proud of the work that we have done to support the Biden administration and getting the ARP through the Congress and getting $750 million that was owed to us from the CARES Act. So when my friend mentions my relationships, I get things done for DC residents at all levels, at the Congress, at the White House, to deliver. That's why we've gotten our fair share of emergency funds that have allowed us to put in place high impact tutoring, have allowed us to put in place enrichment at DPR, that's allowing us to put in advanced technical internships for our students that some people think of is the contemporary vocational training, where we're allowing our students to go to school and go to work and get paid at the same time and be prepared for college and career. So those are some of the things that we can do with regard to learning loss. On the question of our teachers, we're proud to have the best paid teaching force in this region, highly qualified, great teachers in our classrooms. I'm looking forward to us resolving our labor issue. I think you've seen all of the labor agreements that I've negotiated with our work partners, and I'm looking forward to the teachers coming to the table as well.
Thank you, Ms. Bowser. Mr. Sobin, we'll come to you next.
Regarding education in the district, my children have gone to both public schools and private schools in the District of Columbia. And when we lived in some of the poor areas of Washington and they went to public schools there, I accompanied them to breakfast in the morning, and the other students were sitting around and we all talked. And so many of the students were talking about the problems in their community that had nothing to do with education. An uncle being killed the night before, or a father in prison, a mother doing this or that. And I realized that we were in a war zone here. And how can children be educated when there's gunfire going off all the time, when relatives are being taken away either temporarily or permanently? So I became committed at that point to having the police be friends of the community and protecting people rather than engaged in this nonsensical war on drugs that we keep on going. I agree with the mayor when she says that we need to have programs that help people who are addicted to drugs, but throwing people in jail because they use drugs either recreationally or by addiction does not help them and does not help their families. So
Thank
to
you,
me,
Mr. Sobin.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sobin.
The government cannot do it alone. And I will say this 1,000 times on a number of issues, but on the issue of safety and in some respects with mental health and behavioral health, it really does take the village to stand in the breach and make sure that the safety nets that we create, that the government creates, that people are connecting to them and that they work. We have a program for almost everything that has been mentioned here. But that doesn't mean that there's somebody in the government that is walking you through every step of the way to be able to engage and embrace those programs. So we have created some of that with navigation services for homelessness, for work, for life coaching, you name it. We put highly qualified individuals in place to help our residents who are the most vulnerable, who need the most help and have trouble navigating the system to get the help they need. Healing, I think, is also very important. I think I've heard that a couple of times here. And that is a big community, spiritual faith. That is a combination of all of us working together to make sure that people who are experiencing trauma are getting the help they need. For our part in the government, making sure that our staffs have the trauma-informed training that they're dealing with, that our residents are dealing with all sorts of trauma to
Thank you, Ms.
effectively.
Bowser. Thank you, Mayor Bowser. We have to go to Mr. Sobin now.
Yes. You sound like we have to go to him like we don't have much choice in that.
No, I didn't think it that way.
Sounds like Calvin was talking, Denise. At any rate, not too long ago, I was in a community well known for its open air drug usage and all of that, and I ran across a couple in a car, and there was an emergency, and I think it was the woman was being helped by the man, and the woman was going into seizures and some serious problems, which I assume were drug related. At least I got that impression. And I said to the guy, I said, let's call an ambulance. Let's go to. They said, no. She'll get arrested. We don't want the police involved. We don't. And I think that's the crux of the situation here. We have a situation where people are afraid to get help because of the illegality of it. If it was decriminalized, we wouldn't have that situation. We tried during the last century to make alcohol use illegal. Possession of alcohol was illegal, trafficking in alcohol, and it didn't work. It created a situation like we have with fentanyl, where people were getting impure alcohol then and were creating more problems. There were blindness, there were other ailments coming up. So I
Mr.
think the first
Sobin, we're
step,
out of time. We're
yes,
out of
thank you.
time. Sorry. Can you share with us or the viewers how you would promote green jobs in the District of Columbia? Where do you see those opportunities?
Yeah, I think what we've been doing in the city to help the environment has been good, and I would like to see a continuation of that policy. I happen to be a bike rider. I also own a truck and a car, but my bike is my favorite way to get around the city. I use the other vehicles if I'm going out of the city, and the bike paths are wonderful, and I think they're helping quite a bit. I'm also the owner of an electric outboard motor, so I boat on the Potomac and use electric.
We have done quite a lot in our city in partnership with the council to make us one of the greenest cities in America. We've recommitted to the Paris Climate Accords, and we set some very aggressive goals for reducing carbon emissions by 2050. And we're working hand in hand with our community groups, including the Sierra Club and others, to make sure that we stay on point with those goals, and they are aggressive. And it is going to take us working together to make sure that our residents, our businesses, and our infrastructure can get us there. And we're very focused on that. We're looking at ways to deploy the bipartisan infrastructure dollars to help us improve our infrastructure and make it more sustainable. And one focus that we will have is on electrification to allow more people to buy electric cars and have the ability to power them up at more places anywhere in the city. So we're looking forward to that. We have created green jobs already. I'm very proud of a partnership that we have with DC Water and Wind and DC government. I'm very proud that I created the DC Infrastructure Academy, where we're not just training people, but we're training them for actual jobs that exist among our utility companies and putting them to work. When I became mayor, only rich people in more affluent neighborhoods could get solar panels and have monthly savings. But we have
Thank,
solar for all now that allows them to access those savings.
thank you, Mayor Bowser. The time has gone by quickly. We started a little late, but we got the end on time. So each of you will be given 2 minutes for your closing remarks.
Yes, thank you for this evening of conversation, which I have frankly found quite depressing. We have a mayor here who has done quite a bit for the city, and I don't think we've shown her the proper respect. And I want to thank her for her years of service, and if she wins the election, her 4 more years of service. I hope she won't go beyond that point, because I think we should have a change of leadership at least at one point. But as far as voting for me, I can look at me as being the peace candidate, the candidate who wants to stop this war on drugs, the candidate who wants to use all the wasted money we're using for incarcerating people and the police that are entrapping people, money that we could use for real programs that will help our young people, that will help our addicts, etc. And that is why I want you to vote for me, the Libertarian Party candidate. And thank you again.
Move on to Mayor Bowser for your closing remarks.
Well, thank you, Denise. And I want to thank all of the residents who took time this evening to watch and to listen and to send in their questions, many of whom voted for me in June. And I'm asking them and others to take this election very seriously and come out and vote on November 8th for Muriel Bowser for mayor. Also, there are very important council elections on the ballot, including the at-large race, where you have an opportunity to vote for 2 candidates. I'm the Democrat running for mayor. And I just, in listening to this conversation today, my spirit tells me just to say this. Running for mayor is not a joke. It is very serious business. We live in one of the most important cities in the world. We have a $20 billion budget that requires expertise and finesse to manage and implement each and every day. We have to have courageous leaders that have demonstrated an ability to stand up to power, even if it's Donald Trump, even if it's the Congress of the United States, even if it's leaders in your own party. You have to have that. And I have demonstrated that in my 15 years of service to the residents of the District of Columbia. My leadership has been tested to the core in the last 2.5 years, where I had to make tough decisions related to COVID that I know saved lives. I'm very proud of the work that we have done that has been progressive and aggressive and effective in dealing with our affordable housing issues in the District of Columbia. We also saved our economy. I did 2 budgets in the space of like 3 months during COVID to make sure that businesses didn't close and that people could pay their employees. And I have a real plan for our comeback. What I didn't hear tonight was any plans for what's next for the District of Columbia. How do we make sure that we get our downtown revived, that our
Mayor
agencies
Bowser, your
Thank you.
time is up. All right.
Thank you very much, guys. Thank you all.
Thank you. That concludes our debate. To learn more about how to vote in this election, visit dcboe.org. That's dcboe.org. And remember to visit dcdebates.com. Again, that's dcdebates.com to watch this debate and others in their entirety. I want to thank all of you, all of the candidates, our community partners, and the Office of Campaign Finance for hosting tonight's debate. I wish you all a safe evening and good night.